What if your breathing is your key to core, an unshakable foundation of strength? That's what we'll look at today. Today, you'll discover your deep core. You'll unpack intra-abdominal pressure. What is it? How do you get it? Why trying too hard to find it might keep you from it. I'll share a story about a client who was stuck in the ribs forward butt back pattern, why they couldn't get out of it, and what we did to shift it. We'll evolve common alignment cues so you're not confused about what to do and how to use your breathing for core. Your breathing is an invisible engine, and when well aligned and you're breathing functionally, it powers every movement in your body. Without the engine of your breathing, there's gripping, pinching, pulling, overcompensating somewhere. For some people, it's the neck and the jaw. If you grind your teeth, have chronic jaw tension, that's you. For others like me, it's the psoas, the hip flexors, the lower back that's chronically tight, gripping, going out because there's not stability at the core of the body generated by your breathing. When your breathing is really firing, you have systemic strength. It is whole, complete, everywhere. Core from your breathing is not like six-pack core. It's not a tightness in the abdomen. It's actually a pressurized system. The respiratory diaphragm and pelvic floor diaphragm will be stacked and they'll move together. They'll have rhythm and relationship. And that creates a pressure system that'll be taut like a drum, not like a flat tire. When the ribs move forward and up and your butt gets stuck back, the respiratory diaphragm and pelvic floor diaphragm are not stacked. This is commonly called an extension compression pattern, and you lose that ability to have a pressurized system in the abdomen. Let's explore the deep core first. Traditionally, your deep core will be the respiratory diaphragm on top, the transverse abdominis going around, similar to a corset, the pelvic floor on the bottom, and then the multifidi run up the spine like shoelaces. Now, the multifidi are too deep to feel. They're not innervated, but they engage and brace and stabilize your spine when the pelvic floor is active. This idea of the deep core aligns with the deep front line from the myofascial meridians and the bandhas from the yoga tradition. What is intra-abdominal pressure? It's less something you do and more something you have when the setup is right and you're well aligned. Intra-abdominal pressure makes the abdomen a taut drum rather than a hollow, floppy balloon. It requires that the rib cage and pelvis are stacked, so respiratory diaphragm and pelvic floor are aligned and they can get that rhythm of relationship. There is a 5-muscle formula to help you get the pelvis and the rib cage stacked so the respiratory diaphragm and pelvic floor can talk. Those 5 muscles are the hamstrings on the backs of your legs, the adductors, the inner thighs, the obliques, which are sidewall abdominals, transverse abdominis, which is that muscle that wraps around your abdomen like a corset, and serratus anterior, which are like these feather muscles on your side ribs. Those 5 muscles will help you draw the ribs back to get out of that rib flare pattern and also anchor the pelvis in neutral to get out of that butt back pattern. Once the rib cage and pelvis are stacked, not only do you have the support and stability of your deep core, but then all of those muscles are easier to engage and activate too. So this becomes a virtuous cycle of alignment or a vicious cycle of misalignment. Here's what happens in the body when the ribs move forward and up and the butt is back. The abdominals are weak, the hip flexors and quads are tight. The hamstrings and glutes are weak, and the lower back muscles are tight and grippy. This postural pattern is common in the general public. It can be exacerbated by the yoga practice due to old, outdated alignment cues. Practitioners are often taught to lift the chest up, and then there's back bending extension in the ribs, and then thighs back can keep your butt back. So you have no stability in the core of the body, and there's more and more pressure on the lower back and the lumbar spine, or more and more stress in the head and neck. Unfortunately, the ego gets involved, and many of us have come to see that extension compression pattern as desirable or normal, or we prefer flexibility over stability. Here's a story of one of my clients and why she was stuck with ribs forward, butt back. My client started asking a lot of questions about core. How do we get it? Why do we need it? Why is this so important? And what we discovered was she was resisting the core work and stability because of her attachment to the flexibility. She was attached to the flexibility. The ribs forward, butt back felt good. It felt like yoga. It felt open. It felt flexible. It felt like she was doing it right. So we did a learning through contrast experiment. I had her do a movement with the old pattern of ribs forward, butt back. It would inevitably lead to lower back pain, instability, wobbliness, a sense that she couldn't quite do it. She didn't have the power or the control or the sense of grounding. Then I'd have her get stacked, align the rib cage and pelvis, find the rhythm of respiratory diaphragm, pelvic floor diaphragm, and then she'd feel strong, capable, grounded, like there was power coming from the very center of her body. She was able to do more things, and her lower back felt safe and secure and spacious. So we indulged in the old pattern and saw where that got us. And then we went after the new pattern, and she could appreciate the stability and security in her body. Stability and safety in the body is a big deal. And that's another bonus of intra-abdominal pressure. It's not just core strength and power. It actually brings a sense of safety to the body. The diaphragm is like a big pump, and it influences your circulation, lymph flow, and even massages your organs. When the diaphragm is moving fully and freely and everything's well pressurized, baroreceptors, pressure sensors, are stimulated in the abdominal cavity and major blood vessels, and this calms the autonomic nervous system. Intra-abdominal pressure also stimulates mechanoreceptors, so the body pre-braces before movement. As we age, these anticipatory reflexes slow down. So we become more wobbly. There's more sway. We have less stability coming from the core of the body. By training our functional breathing and generating intra-abdominal pressure, we're able to counteract this natural phenomena of aging. Intra-abdominal pressure also influences balance and whole body stability. We see this in the studies about ankle sprains and ankle stability being related to functional breathing. This happens because pressure in the center of the body organizes the body as a whole. It's just like a balloon that when you blow it up, that tautness radiates outward and influences everything. Now that we know about the deep core, intra-abdominal pressure, and why it's so important, let's look at how to get it. We get stuck with ribs forward, butt back. And butt back is an anterior tilt to the pelvis. The pelvis is tilted forward. To neutralize the pelvis, you'll use the hamstrings, which attach at the sitting bones. And the hamstrings are going to pull down on the sitting bones and anchor the pelvis on the back side. The obliques, the side wall abdominals, are going to pull up on the pubic bone from the front side. So you have the obliques lifting the front side of the pelvis and the hamstrings anchoring the back side of the pelvis. Then you have a neutral pelvis and you're out of that butt back pattern. Light engagement of the adductors, the inner thighs, create a hug to the midline, help hold everything in place, and then the pelvic floor can have its natural trampoline-like spring. Now, ribs forward and up, again, the obliques will help draw the side ribs down. Transverse abdominis, that corset-like muscle around your core, will pull the front ribs in and down. And then serratus anterior, which are like these feather-like muscles on the side ribs, will help hug the rib cage in and down and ground the shoulder blades onto the rib cage. Now, shoulder blades down, shoulder blades anchored on rib cage is a byproduct of the back body being full and the rib cage being well aligned. So it's something to look for as a sign and a signal that the rib cage is in a stacked position. Something to be aware of and that we've noticed in the school is as students are exhaling and drawing the front ribs in and down and learning to rein in the ribs, there's a tendency to get drag or pull on the chest. The collarbones will come in and down. You'll feel a tightness around the sternum. That is a sign and a signal that you've done too much. It's too aggressive and you're starting to use the auxiliary muscles of the chest, and you're likely missing the sidewall abdominals, corset muscles of transverse abdominis, and especially serratus anterior. Collectively, I see that as the weakest muscle in our community. So there are checks and balances with functional breathing and engaging the core. Here are a few to look for. When you exhale and draw the front ribs in and down, keep the chest and the collarbones open and spacious. No closing off, dragging down, wrapping the shoulders forward, or tensing of the muscles in the sides of the neck. When the hamstrings engage and anchor the sitting bones, there's a light tone at the folds of the buttocks. The pelvic floor will have a natural rhythm, a trampoline-like spring. If you tuck under too much, you'll actually close off the pelvic floor and you won't be able to get that sense of light tone, almost a hum of engagement at the hamstring attachment near the sitting bones. When the low belly lifts up and in, it's low, like right above your pubic bone. It's almost a sense of being scooped up and in. It's not navel back, it's much lower than that. Similar to the drag on the chest and the collarbones, we tend to do funny things with head and neck when we're focused on the core. You want to feel like there's a lightness and lift to the skull, especially coming from the back of the skull, the occipital ridge. A sign you've got it is the roof of your mouth lifts up, your forehead softens down, and there's a tone in the back center of your throat. You're missing it doing too much if the throat feels closed off or if the roof of your mouth starts to collapse down. Another sign that the sitting bones are well anchored is you'll be able to feel your heels. And when you feel your heels, you want them heavy, like the boulder bones that they are, and you want the arches of your feet to lift up and the ball of your feet to feel like they're agile. They have a little bit of spring. You don't want to be so rocked back in your heels that you lose the arches of your feet, the dexterity of the ball of your feet, or that the sitting bones start curling under to compensate. The checks and balances help you sort through common alignment cues. For example, rather than tuck your tailbone, I encourage you to anchor your sitting bones, ground through your sitting bones. Tailbone cues were often given to help students find their pelvic floor, but especially in a female pelvis, there's a tendency to tuck under too much. And then you lose the sitting bones, you lose the hamstrings, you lose the stability in the pelvis. You start rounding your lower back and you totally miss the deep core. So instead of tuck your tailbone, ground through your sitting bones, get that light hum to the hamstrings, and lift in your pelvic floor. Instead of pull your belly in or draw your navel to your spine, focus on getting the ribs in and down, feeling the lift of the low belly. And that gives you the relationship to respiratory diaphragm, pelvic floor diaphragm that is true core and intra-abdominal pressure rather than just a small part of your abdominal fibers. So instead of pull your belly to your spine, focus on ribs in and down and that lift in low belly above the pubic bone. Instead of flat back or upright spine, focus on the stack of your rib cage and your pelvis. That will uplift your whole body through that tautness of the intra-abdominal pressure. And if you're worried about head forward, shoulders rolling forward, often we push the chest forward, push the ribs out to try to correct, but we only end up in that pattern of rib flare, butt back, and dissipating the intra-abdominal pressure. When you have the intra-abdominal pressure, you'll naturally be upright and your head will float back easily. So instead of flat back, upright spine, focus on the stack of rib cage and pelvis. Instead of breathe into your belly, breathe from your diaphragm. Breathe with your diaphragm. Breathe with circumference is another way to say that gives students a visual of the natural movement of the diaphragm, which is front, back, side to side, expanding the vertical diameter of the rib cage. So instead of breathe into your belly, breathe with your diaphragm. breathe with circumference. Instead of engage your core, which often leads to bracing and bearing down and tightening and gripping, think of the corset of the core, this natural inorganic expansion and contraction that happens with each and every breath you take. Let's wrap up and put it all together. Here is your practice integration. Breathing is your key to core. For breathing that generates core, align your rib cage and your pelvis. 5 muscles will help you do that: hamstrings, adductors, serratus anterior, obliques, and transverse abdominis. You know you have breathing for core when your abdomen feels like a pressurized system, taut like a drum, steady, stable, secure, safe. The pressurized system in your abdomen leads to better circulation, better balance, better reflexes, and whole body stability. Especially if you've been practicing yoga asana for a decade or 3, you will likely have to back off flexibility to find stability and rewrite common alignment cues in your mind and your body. The good news is evolving these cues will transform how you move. Thanks for listening. If you want to learn more about breathing and even practice breathing and moving in community, join us for the Fall in Love with Your Breathing Challenge. It's 10 days, just 20 minutes a day, a rotating roster of incredible teachers and breathing experts. It's 100% free, and we begin October 6th.